Who are these people?
So this has been happening. I don't know if you've been paying attention, but there's a guy called John Durham who's been making an investigation happen about a bunch of stuff actually, but specifically this might be the end of Russiagate. Um and as you'll see later, plenty of mainstream media acting like this is nothing.
No, no. The
Yep.
end of Russiagate? No.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna milk that for all it's worth for at least
They're
another
still
few
gonna
years.
try, but we'll get into it. So this is an amazing article by Aaron Mate. Oh, Aaron Mate, over at the Gray Zone. Aaron Mate yelled at me. So with Clinton lawyer charged, the Russiagate scam is now under indictment. Realize we can indict a ham sandwich, so keep that in mind, right? But this has some credible stuff here that the Republicans are more than willing to use coming up to this next election. So, in accusing Clinton campaign lawyer Michael Sussman of lying to the FBI, special counsel John Durham offers new evidence of the fabrications behind the Trump-Russia conspiracy theory. The indictment of Hillary Clinton attorney Michael Sussman offers new evidence that the Trump-Russia conspiracy theory that engulfed Trump's term in office was itself the production of fabrications involving Clinton's 2016 campaign. Although Sussman faces just one count on a false statement charge, the 27-page charging document offers an expansive window on how the Russiagate scam began and how Democratic operatives, intelligence officials, and establishment media figures dishonestly fed it to the public. So, Sussman, until recently an attorney with Clinton campaign law firm Perkins Coie, is the second person to be charged by John Durham, the special counsel scrutinizing the Russia investigation. Sussman was accused of lying to the FBI during a September 2016 meeting in which he tried to raise alarm about, quote, secret communications between the Trump organization and Russia's Alfa Bank. Sussman gave then FBI attorney Jim Baker documents and data purporting to show that computer servers associated with Trump and Alfa Bank were in regular contact. This was evidence, Sussman argued, of a possible covert back channel. According to Durham, Sussman told Baker that he was not working for any client and was simply passing on information that he had been provided to him by multiple cyber experts who had come across the suspicious web traffic. But according to the detailed indictment, Sussman was in fact cooking up a politically motivated scam. The theory of a purported covert Trump Alpha channel has been concocted by an unnamed tech executive positioning himself for a top cybersecurity job in the anticipated Clinton administration. To spread the theory to the media and intelligence community, the executive and Sussman coordinated. Durham says with Mark Elias, a college of Sussman at Perkins Coie, and the top lawyer for Clinton's 2016 campaign. The theory of a purported covert Trump Alpha channel has been concocted by an unnamed tech executive, right? We read that, right? Sussman and Elias, in turn, coordinated with the private intelligence company Fusion GPS. Elias had already hired the firm, on Clinton's behalf, to produce the Steele dossier, the collection of fabricated reports by ex-British spy Christopher Steele, alleging a long-standing Trump-Russia conspiracy blackmail relationship. According to Steele, it was Sussman, in a July 2016 meeting, who first informed him about the Alfa Bank server story. Elias kept Clinton campaign members informed as well, including the, quote, campaign manager, communications director, and foreign policy advisor. In February 2017, Sussman also met with a CIA official to push the Alfa Bank narrative. Sussman concealed the plot from the FBI, along with the fact that he was billing Clinton for his involvement. The meeting with the FBI's Baker, for example, was charged to the Clinton campaign as work and communications regarding confidential project. So he got paid for that, right? In fact, according to Durham, all or nearly all of Sussman's work on the Alfa Bank story prior to meeting Baker was billed to the Clinton campaign. So that right there is... So in Sussman's orbit, hiding the money trail was established Russiagate practice. His law firm Perkins Coie and the Clinton campaign concealed that they had funded the Steele dossier until a subpoena from the GOP-controlled House Intelligence Committee forced them to admit the truth in October 2017. The FBI also concealed Steele's Democratic funders from the FISA court when it used the dossier to obtain a surveillance warrant on Trump campaign volunteer Carter Page. So, Sussman is charged for failing to disclose that he was acting on behalf of Clinton's team, but the indictment makes clear that Durham has uncovered a wider deception. For weeks prior to his meeting with the FBI, Sussman worked with the unnamed technology executive, Tech Executive One, who, like the Clinton campaign, was also Sussman's client. The executive's goal, Durham says, was to create a, quote, narrative about Trump's, quote, ties to Russia, which would ultimately please certain VIPs, i.e. Sussman's clients in the Clinton campaign. There it is. This is the actual thing that Durham is putting together, right? So, Tech Executive One's goal.
Just for reference for people in the chat, when did Aaron write this article?
Like, few
Actually, I can
weeks,
check.
like, yeah, you can check for me. Because this is ongoing. Like May 10th, maybe?
No, so he wrote this in September 2021. So almost 2 years.
Right. So I've got some more coming. So, who worked as a U.S.-based university to search broadly through internet data for any information about Trump's potential ties to Russia. In connection with this tasking, as an alleged in further detail below, Tech Executive One's goal was to support an interference and narrative regarding Trump that would please certain VIPs. Moreover, and as alleged below, Tech Executive One provided information that he gathered through these interactions to his lawyer Sussman, so that Sussman could assist in drafting and disseminating materials to the media and the FBI. So, to advance this goal, the executive took advantage of his ownership position at several companies to access public and non-public internet data and tasked several people to assist him. Their efforts yielded a cache of purported DNS traffic between a Trump-adjacent marketing server and Alpha Bank in Russia. According to Durham, the tech executive researchers expressed misgivings about the project. One team member relayed continued doubt about the Trump Alpha conspiracy theory that Sussman would later convey to the FBI, and concerns that the project was driven not by data but by bias against Trump. To suggest even a, quote, very weak association, the researcher warned, we will have to expose every trick we have in our bag. At one point, the executive himself even admitted that the Trump Alpha Bank traffic was not a secret channel, but in fact, a red herring. But that ultimately did not stop him from working with Sussman to draft white papers and collect data that would be submitted to the FBI in the service of the VIP care narrative. The FBI would ultimately reach the same red herring conclusion that the executive had concealed. As Durham notes, the email server at issue was not owned or operated by the Trump org, but rather has been administered by a mass marketing email company that sent advertisements for Trump hotels and hundreds of other clients. For its part, Alpha Bank has filed suit against the computer researchers involved, accusing them of doctoring computer data in a deliberate smear campaign to tie the bank to Trump. A link to the report commissioned by Alpha Bank points that threat actors may have artificially created DNS activity between Trump and Alpha Bank to make it appear as though a connection existed for discovery later. So the FBI's investigation of the Alpha Bank theory proved to be just as fruitless as every other of the fabricated Trump-Russia conspiracies theories chased by U.S. intelligence officials, congressional committees, and media outlets for more than 3 years. But Sussman's effort ultimately serves its purpose. The FBI meeting gave journalists a news hook to publish the Alpha Bank allegations just days before the 2016 election. Weeks later, the DNC-funded Steele dossier would see a similar entry into public consciousness. After sitting on the salacious dossier for months, the U.S. media was given a news hook to publish it when the FBI director Jim Comey, in concert with other intelligence officials, went to Trump Tower and briefed then-President-elect Trump about the alleged P-tape. Right? So, on October 31st, Slate's Franklin Foer, as well as Eric Lichtblau and Stephen Lee Myers of the New York Times, published stories about the Trump Alpha Bank secret channel. Right? This is after they've already figured out all of this is Bob Kiss. Right? So the Times story revealed the Trump campaign associates, as well as the Alpha Bank theory, was the subject of an FBI investigation The Clinton campaign immediately promoted the story as part of its public campaign to portray Trump as a Kremlin stooge. Computer scientists have apparently uncovered a covert server linking the Trump organization to a Russian-based bank. Hillary Clinton announced on Twitter, "It's time for Trump to answer serious questions about his ties to Russia." Right, and there she is, asking that very thing, right? Computer scientists have apparently uncovered a covert server, and that's what, October 31st of 2016?
Yes. Yes.
Right? So they're October 31st again, right? You know, this is after they all know this isn't the case. Right? So Clinton also shared a statement from her then foreign policy advisor, Jake Sullivan. The secret hotline, Sullivan claimed, could be the most direct link yet between Donald Trump and Moscow, and may be the key to unlocking the mysteries of Trump's ties to Russia. To Sullivan, it certainly seems the Trump org felt it had something to hide. But 5 years later, now we have the confirmation that it was in fact the Clinton campaign that was hiding its roles as the source of this story. As Glenn Greenwald notes, both Hillary and Jake Sullivan were pretending that they had learned about this shocking story from Slate, when in fact it was Hillary's own lawyers and researchers who had spent weeks pushing the story to both the FBI and friendly journalists like Foer. In other words, it was Hillary and her team who had manufactured the hoax, then pretended that, like everyone else, they were just learning about it and believing it to be true, because a media outlet to which they had fed the false stories had just published it. So, indeed, the Clintons' campaign role in planting the Alpha Bank story was so extensive that it appears to have influenced the day it came to light. As Durham recounts, on October 30th, a Fusion GPS employee wrote to Slate Foer and told him time to hurry. Foer responded by sharing what he called the first 2,500 words of his article, and then published it the following day. He never disclosed that the story had come to him from Trump's Democratic rival. Right? So, comparing the indictment details to the way Foer and other credulous journalists spun the Clinton-fueled Alpha Bank narrative offers a window on how the media enabled the scam, whereas Durham reveals that the Alpha Bank team was instructed to create a narrative about Trump-Russia ties that would please Democratic Party's VIPs. The Alpha researchers gave the Clinton campaign's media dupes an inverse cover story. They were simply well-meaning internet sleuths trying to protect Trump's campaign too. We wanted to help defend both campaigns because we wanted to preserve the integrity of the election. One of the unknown researchers told Ford, "We thought there was no way in the world the Russians would just attack the Democrats, but the Republicans too." Another source told the New Yorker's Dexter Filkins, "We were trying to protect them," they said. Except they were the ones that put the information out to begin with, right?
Mm-hmm.
So here it is in the New Yorker, right? Filkin's story published in October of 2018, 2 years after Foer, and long after the FBI had privately concluded that there was nothing to it, gave the Alpha Bank story a new shelf life. Natasha Bertrand, now a correspondent for CNN, joined Foer on MSNBC in October 28 to declare that the Alpha Bank Trump connection was in fact a smoking gun. "What more evidence do you need? It's very, very obvious," Bertrand said. Right, here's Glenn Greenwald saying that. Right, one of the journalists who most aggressively promoted the fake Trump Alpha Bank server story was Natasha Bertrand, at the center of so many Russiagate frauds, including the Steele dossier, and got promoted over and over for it. Now at CNN. That was September 16th. Right, here's Glenn Greenwald in reply. Right, with the Business Insider here. Right. Aaron Monte, I mean, what more evidence do you need? It's very, very obvious. And here she is. Right here.
I mean, what more evidence do you need? It's very, very obvious, and it's really Occam's razor here. The fact that we still have not been able to rule out the idea that this was a covert communication channel 2 years after the fact that no one has come forth with a plausible explanation for why this was happening, for why Alpha Bank was one of 3 organizations communicating with the Trump server in those months leading up to the election is just...
Except they already knew why it was going to... They already knew.
Right.
Completely remarkable. And I think the fact that Frank's story got overlooked or criticized as much as it did. And the fact that now it's being revisited and you have the editor of the New York Times saying that there, was a story there, just shows the lack of imagination.
So there's that, right? That same night, Filkins was given a effusive reception from cable news, leading Trump-Russia conspiracy theorist. We are blessed as a country to have journalists as talented as you and Franklin Foer are writing about this. Rachel Maddow told Filkins from across the anchor desk, right? In 2018, to Dexter Filkins on his and Foer's stories about secret Trump-Russian bank contacts, DNC-funded scandalous, subject to federal indictment. So here's Maddow, right?
We are blessed as a country to have journalists as talented as you and Franklin Foer writing about this, because it's a difficult thing, and the storytelling ability around a story like this is very important because it's hard to get at the core of it unless you're great with words.
So, great company, right? Predictably, the same media voices who parented the Alpha Bank story and countless other Russian fantasies throughout the Trump era. Yep.
Switch.
One day before, countless other Russian fantasies throughout the Trump era have now fallen silent or continued obfuscating. One day before Sussman's indictment, Maddow covered the story based on a link to the New York Times from someone in Sussman's camp. This allowed Maddow to avoid the damning details revealed in the indictment the following day, and instead portray the as-yet uncharged case as a trivial ploy from a special prosecutor desperate to show results. The only hoax is the charge contained in this indictment, Maddow's guest, MSNBC legal analyst Barbara McQuaid, declared. Neither Foer and Filkins have publicly commented on the indictment. If his past record is any indication, Filkins is not one for contrition. In October 2020, 2 years after his initial story and more than 1 year after the Mueller report, found zero evidence to support the Trump-Russia conspiracy theory, including the Alpha Bank story. Filkins attempted a half-hearted defense. Filkins has discovered that Durham was eyeing the Alpha Bank researchers for possible criminal charges, and then Alpha Bank had itself filed associated lawsuits. He framed the legal activity as, quote, troubling, and warned that it could aid the Kremlin. Filkins even threw in a plug for Steele, whose information, he declared, has neither been proved nor disproved. Filkins may have missed the main sections of a scathing Department of Justice report on December 2019, which blasted the FBI for relying on Steele's fabrications. With the Steele dossier now widely discredited and Sussman's indictment adding new details of related deception, the Clinton campaign is now connected to yet one more documented scam in a sprawling effort to plant Trump-Russia conspiracy theories in the media and trigger federal investigative activity. As we will turn to in the second part of this report, Sussman's role in the Alpha Bank fabrication raises new questions about the allegation at the heart of the Trump-Russia scandal. The claim that Russia stole emails from the Democratic Party and gave them to WikiLeaks in a covert operation to help Trump's campaign. This allegation was generated by a different private firm, CrowdStrike, which, like Fusion GPS, was also hired by Perkins Coie, specifically by Michael Sussman. Right, here it is. They ask him, if I can just clarify one thing you said, CrowdStrike was working for Perkins Coie. Is that the contract was actually with the law firm then, Mr. Wilson? Correct. We had a contract between Perkins Coie and CrowdStrike with a scope of work for the DNC specific work. Mr. Stewart of Utah. So does that mean that you never had a contract, Mr. Henry, with the DNC directly then? Mr. Henry, I mentioned it with Michael Sussman from Perkins Coie. Right? So that's how that's working. Right? So this is the new stuff. Right? So this is from CNN. Special counsel John Durham concludes FBI never should have launched full Russia. And here's the Daily Beast. John Durham owns the American people. An apology for wasting their money. Look, they literally call it a nothing burger. That's literally a nothing burger for them. Right? So Monday, Durham knocked the FBI for failing to take several steps before launching the Trump campaign investigations, such as interviewing several steps before launching the Trump campaign investigations, such as interviewing relevant witnesses, reviewing its own intelligence databases, or using any of the standard analytical tools typically employed by the FBI in evaluating raw intelligence. So they just didn't do anything, right? Durham suggested that the FBI had taken those steps and would have found that U.S. intelligence agencies did not have any evidence trying Trump to Russian leadership officials. The report cites for comparison examples of how the FBI approached investigations concerning former Secretary of State and 2016 Democratic White House nominee Clinton. So this is the big part I wanted people, because this is the new stuff, right? So Durham points specifically to highly significant intelligence the FBI received from a trusted foreign source, pointing to a Clinton campaign plan to vilify Trump by tying him to Vladimir Putin so as to divert attention from her own concerns relating to her use of a private email server. So that's the big takeaway. Unlike the FBI's opening of a full investigation of unknown members of the Trump campaign based on raw, uncorroborated information in this separate matter involving a purported Clinton campaign plan, the FBI never opened any type of inquiry, issued any taskings, employed any analytical personnel, or produced any analytical products in connection with that information, the report said. Durham notes that the FBI did not open an investigation into a purported plan by foreign operatives to target the Clinton campaign, but rather took other steps in responses to those concerns, which included providing defensive briefings for the then Democratic presidential nominee and her staff. Right? So they were kicking back this information to her staff. Right? So, Greg Pice, breaking. According to the Durham report, the plan by Hillary Clinton to create a false story linking Donald Trump to Russia was briefed in August of 2016 by CIA Director John Brennan to President Obama, VP Biden, AG Loretta Lynch, and FBI Director Comey. You remember a certain AG meeting with a Mr. Clinton on a plane for a couple of hours on the tarmac? Okay. So here's some of this. The office was also considered as part of its investigation the government's handling of certain intelligence that it received during the summer of 2016, right? That intelligence concerned the purported approval by Hillary Clinton on July 26, 2016, of a proposal from one of her foreign policy advisors to vilify Donald Trump by stirring up a scandal claiming interference by the Russian security services. We refer to that intelligence hereafter as the Clinton Plan intelligence. They literally had to name this, right? So DNI John Ratcliffe declassified the following information about the Clinton Plan intelligence in September 2020 and conveyed it to the Senate Judiciary Committee, right? In late 2016, U.S. intelligence agencies obtained insight, late July 2016, intelligence agencies obtained insight into Russian intelligence analysis alleging that U.S. presidential candidate Hillary Clinton had approved a campaign plan to stir up a scandal against U.S. presidential candidate Donald Trump by trying him to Putin and the Russians' hacking of the DNC emails. The ISC does not know the accuracy of this allegation or the extent to which the Russian intelligence analysis may reflect exaggeration or fabrication. According to his handwritten notes, CIA Director Brennan subsequently briefed President Obama and other senior national security officials on the intelligence, including the alleged approval by Clinton on July 2016 of a proposal from one of her foreign policy advisors to vilify Donald Trump by stirring up a scandal claiming interference by Russian security services. So this is all the documentation that they're doing here, right? Mm-hmm. So, relevant facts. Before addressing the U.S. government receipt and handling of the Clinton Plan intelligence, we reiterate below the description of the intelligence as is classified by the DNI in a September 29th letter to Chairman Graham. Ratcliffe's letter stated in part as follows. In late July 2016, U.S. intelligence agencies obtained insight into Russian intelligence analysis alleging that U.S. presidential candidate Hillary Clinton had approved a campaign plan to stir up a scandal against U.S. presidential candidate Donald Trump by tying him into Putin and the Russians hacking the Democratic National Committee. As described herein, And in the classified appendix, U.S. officials describe the Clinton plan intelligence in various other ways in their official notes and documents as described more fully. In the classified appendix, there are specific indications and additional facts that heightened the potential relevance of this intelligence to the office's inquiry. So they were trying to say, like, hey, look at this. It's important. Right? On August 3rd, 2016, within days of receiving the Clinton pan intelligence, Director Brennan met with President, Vice President, and other senior and admin officials, including but not limited to the AG, who participated remotely, and the FBI director in the White House Sitch Room to discuss Russian election interference efforts. According to Britain's handwritten notes and his recollections from the meeting, he briefed on relevant intelligence known to date on Russian election interference, including the Clinton plan intelligence. Specifically, Director Brennan's declassified handwritten notes reflect that he briefed the meeting's participants regarding the alleged approval by Clinton on 26th of July of a proposal from one of her advisors to vilify Donald Trump by stirring up a scandal claiming interference by the Russian security services. Right? So we also have was unable to determine precisely when the FBI first obtained any of the details of the Clinton pan intelligence, other than Director Comey, who attended that August 3rd briefing. It appears, however, that this occurred no later than August 22nd, 2016. On that date, an FBI cyber analyst emailed a number of FBI employees, including Supervisor Intelligence Analyst Brian Otten and Section Chief Maffa, the most senior intelligence and analysts on the Crossfire Hurricane team, to provide an update on Russian ... So, McCabe defending the FBI's handling of the investigation in an interview with CNN, Anderson Cooper, Monday night, saying that he vehemently disagreed with the report's findings and calling Durham's probes a political errand on behalf of Trump. Look, the fact is, we know that the Russians were doing and had done in an effort to help Donald Trump, he said on Anderson Cooper. And if you had any information, any intelligence or information that indicated that the Clinton campaign was colluding with the Russians, we would have investigated that as well, except you did and you didn't. McCabe added, but that information doesn't exist and to my knowledge was not happening. So that's where we are now. Essentially. Right?
Okay.
I figured I'll add this list of the 61 hacks who peddled Russian collusion and should never be trusted again. You know, here's all of them. Look, we got Malcolm Nance in there, Joy Reid, Chris Hayes, Scarborough. You know, all your favorites. Bill Kristol. Yeah. Max Boot. Thomas Frank. Jake Tapper, right? Anything to add, Collin?
So really, this kind of that was a lot, but it seems to me like they were trying to promote a lot of this anti-Russia sentiment from then.
Yeah,
I think it was just a matter of Trump kind of came onto the scene. And I think basically they kind of used him as.
Well, they also played the same with Bernie, right? You know, Bernie had to go along with this as well. So
Right. Yeah,
you know.
but I think Trump was in a way a convenient accident in terms of pushing all that sentiment against a guy who was just intolerable by half the population. But it still doesn't excuse the fact that I think there were even without Trump, they were going to push this anti-Russia sentiment anyway. I would imagine if Clinton was president, Hillary, we would have been at war with Russia
earlier
back in.
Well, she wanted a no-fly zone over Crimea. So, you know, yeah, very much so. But
this
is an ongoing story. I'll definitely keep an eye on it. I know Aaron was on Jimmy today talking about it. So definitely go check that out for up-to-date stuff there. But Yeah. You ready for our next story?